A lavender dusk drapes itself across the winding arms of the river Wensum, where black swans glide like whispered secrets beneath ancient stone bridges. Shutters click closed in timbered homes, and the air, cool with the promise of night, carries the soft clink of a smith's hammer in the distance. Here, in 1378 Norwich, twilight is less a gentle ending than the first page of a story told by candlelight. Lanterns appear, one by one, shimmering gold upon cobblestones slick with river mist. In these fledgling pools of light, shadows lengthen into corridors, and every breath of wind seems to carry a ripple of rumour, like moth wings brushing a window pane. The scent of damp willow mingles with the faint hearth smoke drifting from hearthstones, conjuring an intimacy that invites confidences. It is at this threshold, where day's bustle surrenders to night's hush, that gossip, soft as a lover's murmur, first finds its voice. A passerby stops beside a shuttered stall, leans close, and lowers her chin into a velvet whisper. Though unseen, her words feel heavy, metallic. They echo between shuttered houses long after she has gone. And so begins our journey into the quiet power of speech. How, in a town lit by dim lanterns and bound by whispered oaths, a single syllable could scorch a reputation and draw the stroke of shame. Morning breaks amber over Norwich market, scattering cups of rosy light across stacks of apples, bolts of cloth, and barrels of salted fish. Yet beneath the market's cheerful clamor lies a softer current, a murmur that winds through stalls as insistently as smoke through dry reeds. Bread sellers lean to one another, lowering voices while folding loaves beneath their cloaks. A basket of radishes becomes the perfect shield for half-heard confessions. The market's heart is not merely barter, but the exchange of stories, some sweet as honeycomb, others bitter as wormwood. A rumor breathes life into every stall, that Widow Rudder's late husband left more than a cottage to his widow, that the baker's apprentice vanished in the night, that a merchant's daughter dared to meet a sailor on the docks. Each tale blossoms in the marketplace like a bloom of foxglove, beautiful, poisonous, and impossible to ignore. By noon, the gossip has traveled so far that the original teller's voice is lost beneath elaborations woven by eager tongues. In Norwich, the market is a cathedral of rumor, every stall a confessional where words are whispered as offerings. And yet, for all its peril, the market's murmur remains irresistible, a lure as potent as the freshest produce under the morning sun. Long after the market empties, when shutters clatter closed like sighs of relief, the town's weavers settle beneath dim rushlight to ply their twining threads. In one modest home near Elm Hill, Mistress Clare, wife of a master weaver, gathers her neighbors around a low hearth. Here, amid the dovetailing of loom and hearthstone, she begins a tale. It is neither wholly innocent nor conspiratorial, merely a recounting of a clandestine meeting by the riverbank. Two figures cloaked in midnight's black, whose embrace seemed more fervent than friendship allows. As she speaks, her guests sip watered ale and lean forward, as though Claire's words were hands weaving a tapestry they can't resist. Each detail, moonlight glinting on a blade, the brush of a sleeve, gains weight in the telling. By the fire's flicker, the story stretches thinner than linen, yet seems bound to snap the seam of social decorum. With dawn's pale fingers peeking over rooftops, Claire's midnight tale is already well worn. The husband of one listener insists it must be gossip. Another swears he saw the same figures in the square. Thus does one whispered story, uttered for mere amusement, grow heavy enough to sink the heart of an innocent. Beyond the town's bustle, St Peter Mancroft's churchyard lies hushed, its tombstones mottled with lichen and moonlight. Here, parishioners once too shy to speak at home gather at dawn to confess more than sins. They confess suspicions. Beneath headstones carved with angels in repose, shaped like silent guards, whispers win through hollows of stone. A mother lays a wreath for her child's grave while warning her neighbor of rumors that the local sexton embezzles pew rents. A widow pauses by her husband's testament to share speculation of her late sister-in-law's impropriety. Even the stones seem to carry these voices, storing them in their gray memory. But the churchyard's hush is an illusion. Secrets breathed here are destined for open air. For gossip, like holy water, spills over the lip of its vessel, and soon parson's wife and stonecutter alike know the same muted tale. In a dimly lit corner of the Guildhall, the town's magistrates inspect a heavy iron apparatus known as the Scold's Bridle, or brank, as it is whispered in the cobblestone corridors. Consisting of a cage for the head and a sharp plate fitted inside the mouth, it is crafted not for comfort, but for irreversible silencing. As the magistrate turns the device in his hands, the metal catches a stray candle's flame, sending sparks of dread into the magistrate's eyes. This cruel instrument is England's answer to unruly tongues, a punishment more shameful than any mark of public flogging. Those found guilty of scolding, babbling, or tattling may find their heads enclosed, their tongues forced flat upon iron spikes. To don the brank is to become a spectacle of shame. The wearer marched through streets, bell clanging at her side, while onlookers snatch morsels of delight from her disgrace. And though the device's leather straps chafe and its iron kisses burn, it is the spirit more than the flesh that bears the deepest wound. Mistress Alden stood beneath the woven shadows of an ancient elm, its leaves murmuring secrets of their own as dusk's amber breath settled over Elm Hill. In her palm she cradled a bleached parchment, its edges curled like the wings of a moonlit moth, and her heart fluttered with a soft urgency. Earlier that afternoon, she had glimpsed a score of furtive glances exchanged between the mayor's own son and a traveling tinker's daughter. Nothing untoward, perhaps, save for the spark of longing that danced in their eyes. Yet curiosity, that gentle seducer, urged her to lean closer, to catch the tail of a tale still breathless with possibility. Soft as a sigh, she had pressed her ear to a narrow doorway and heard snippets of hushed laughter, the clink of a small coin purse, the tip of a jest that might have been innocent, had it not been tinged with the promise of scandal. By candle's light that evening, she resolved to share what she had overheard with a dear friend in the Guildhall's quiet corridor, believing it to be no more than a harmless nuance in the town's tapestry of whispers. Yet words once loosened from the lips attend a path of their own choosing, slipping into eager ears like droplets through a sieve. In the half-light of the elm, Mistress Alden's breath fluttered like a lantern's flame caught in a gentle draught. She smoothed her woolen gown against the rough bark and allowed herself a small, nervous smile. The air tasted faintly of honeysuckle and smoke, a tender reminder of summer's lingering lullaby. Yet beneath this sweetness lay a tremor of consequence, one she had not foreseen. For in the narrow confines of the Guildhall, her whispered account became a spark set to tinder. By the time the town crier's bell summoned the curious to the marketplace, the story had blossomed into a bouquet of half-truths. That the mayor's son, in his gilded boots, had been seen spiriting away a purse not of his own making. That the tinker's daughter, in her patched skirts, held sway over hearts she could never wed. When Mistress Alden next passed the Guildhall's arched windows, she caught sight of the young pair beneath its stone eaves, eyes cast downward, cheeks stained with the glow of anxious shame. Their furtive bows spoke of apology, even though they knew not what exactly they must atone for. In the lantern-lit hush, the mayor's son awaited judgment as though he were a common street beggar, rather than the scion of Norwich's most respected family. Returning home by winding lanes, Mistress Alden felt the weight of each footstep press upon her conscience. The elm's silhouette trailed behind her like a dark question, and every bird's call in the hedgerows seemed to echo her quiet regret. Once inside her small chamber, she lit a rushlight and watched its flame tremble as though in sympathy. She fingered the parchment again, recalling how quickly her innocent curiosity had taken flight, carrying with it the fragile reputations of two kind souls. That night, as she lay upon her pallet, the memory of her own whispered words drifted through her mind like fallen petals on a silent pond. She recalled the soft timbre of her voice, the very instrument she had trusted to convey a harmless anecdote, and shuddered at the betrayal it had wrought. In the hush before sleep, she resolved that, should the opportunity arise, she would seek out the young couple at dawn and offer the gentlest of apologies, not in grand gestures or proclamations, but in the quiet confession of her error, spoken with a voice as soothing as the elm's rustling lullaby. And so, beneath Norwich's starlit veil, Mistress Alden learned that even the softest whisper can ripple outward like a pebble tossed upon still water, its gentle curves capable of eroding the shores of trust. Rest now, dear listener, and let this tender lesson drift you towards slumber, that words once spoken carry a magic beyond our knowing, and perhaps is with the softest of utterances that we must tread most carefully. The lantern's glow wavered along the cobbles as the town crier stepped into the square, his heavy bell cradled like a sacred vessel. Each toll rang slowly, a hollow note that rolled over timbered roofs and drifted beneath half-closed shutters. In Norwich's evening hush, that single peal carried more power than sword or spear, for it summoned souls not to fight but to witness justice laid bare. He paused beneath the lichen-draped clock tower, its face dim in the gathering dusk, and lifted the bell high. The sound slanted through the air, soft as a breath, yet impossible to ignore. Shopkeepers wiped their hands and leaned forward from open doorways. Children, chasing shadows at play, stilled and tilted their heads as if listening for a lullaby. Even the river's gentle murmur stilled for an instant, as if nature itself held its breath. With a deep, measured exhale, the crier's voice unfurled, a warm baritone that spoke of solemn duty rather than triumph. "Oyez, oyez, good people of Norwich," he intoned, each syllable a gentle ripple in the town's quiet pond. "By order of the mayor and his council, let all who hear this bell draw near and lend your ears to the matter at hand." A hush settled like dew upon a meadow. Lanterns bobbed closer, and a dozen pairs of curious eyes glimmered in the half-light. The crier's next words, though softly spoken, had the weight of iron. "Yesterday at high noon, Mistress Alden's whisper set tongues awhirl. While no harm was intended, mistrust took root and wounded innocent hearts." The crowd shifted, breath clouds blooming in the cool air. Their faces lit by lantern glow reflected both concern and the faint ache of regret. For in Norwich, the bell did more than announce wrongdoing. It held a mirror to every ear that had curved toward idle rumor. And as the crier's lament unfolded, each listener sensed a gentle admonition gliding over them, that curiosity, when left untethered, might stray into shadow. He rang the bell again, 2 slow chimes, each a pulse of warning, and continued, "Let this bell remind us that every whispered word can tip the balance between trust and shame. Let us temper our tongues with kindness and allow mercy to guide our hearts." With each phrase, the crier's tone softened, as though smoothing the edges of an unseen wound. As the final echo faded, he lifted his hand in benediction, and the bell rested against his chest like a heartbeat. For a moment longer, the square remained still. No cough, no shifting cloak, no anxious footfall, just the silent communion of souls touched by his gentle plea. Then, as though waking from a dream, the townsfolk dispersed, each cradling the crier's words like a fragile blossom. In the hush that followed, the crier lingered beneath the clock tower, his bell cooling in the evening air. He closed his eyes and allowed himself a quiet sigh, knowing that today his service had been more than duty. It had been the town's soft reminder of mercy's light. Soon, he would trudge home along lantern-lit lanes, his bell silent, its message carried instead on every lip. And as the night embraced Norwich once more, the town crier's lament drifted on the breeze, an invitation to walk more gently through each other's lives, to guard our words as tender things, and to remember that the gentlest chime may be the loudest call to compassion. Rest now, dear listener, and let this quiet bell guide you into serene dreams. Duration, 750 words. At the sun's zenith, a hush falls over Norwich Priory, its stone cloisters bathed in warm, honeyed light. Pillars of pale limestone rise like sentinels around the inner courtyard, their arches framing a small garden where lavender and rosemary flourish beneath cedar boughs. Here, in the soft cradle of midday, the air breathes of incense and gentle devotion, and even the stones seem to exhale a quiet benediction. Sister Beatrice moves among the rows of prayer benches with a lantern's grace, her linen wimple brushing against the cool flagstones. Each footstep is measured, almost reverent, as she settles at a carved oak stall and opens her prayer book. The pages, edged in gold leaf, catch the sunlight drifting through the traceried window, scattering motes of light like drifting seeds. A single chant rises from her lips, a low, lilting echo that ripples through the cloister's vaulted hush. Beyond her, in the shadowed recesses of the arcade, Sister Joan pauses mid-needlework. She threads her woolen yarn with nimble fingers, yet her gaze lingers on the floating dust motes, as though following some invisible thought. Her companion at the next stall, Sister Matilda, bows her head and lets slip a soft sigh, as though caught between the world of prayer and the world of quiet wonder that lies just beyond the priory walls. Even here, where words are offered to the divine, conversation finds its way in. As the sisters rise to exchange passages of the day's reading, their voices drop to a tender murmur. They speak not of scandal or reproof, but of simple observations. The new bloom of rosemary that will be distilled into salve, the fledgling robin that nests in the oak's hollow, the moonlit vigil planned for All Hallows, even these words float on the verge of hush, carried by lips that understand the power of gentleness. Yet beneath the surface of piety and peace, a subtler current runs. Amid the prayerful rhythms, a stranger has recently joined the novitiate, a young woman whose cheeks blush at every whispered greeting. Rumors first fluttered through the priory gates like hesitant moths, that she had arrived in Norwich under a cloud of concern, that her family's honor had been whispered away by half-told tales in distant villages. Some sisters spoke of her in tones soft as down, concerned for her solace. Others could not resist trading brief conjectures, though quickly they lowered their voices to a respectful hush. Today, as the midday chant crescendos to a gentle close, Sister Beatrice offers a tender prayer for the newcomer's peace of mind. She glances toward the novitiate's curtained stall and notes the young woman's eyes downcast, fingers pressed to her lips as though stifling some lingering doubt. A soft warmth blooms in Beatrice's heart, a blend of compassion and resolve. When the final note drifts away, she rises and approaches with steady steps, carrying a small posy of lavender tied with ribbon. "Grace and peace be with you," she whispers, placing the bouquet upon the bench. The young sister's gaze lifts, surprise and gratitude blooming like first flowers in her eyes. For a moment, no other sound exists but the faint rustle of linen and the gentle sigh of a breeze through the cedar. Beatrice offers a kind smile, and in that simple exchange, no louder than a butterfly's wing beat, the shadow of rumor begins to soften. Elsewhere, in the garden beyond the cloisters, two novices compare their embroidered veils. Their conversation drifts to news of the town, a whispered tale of Mistress Alden's regret, the clanging bell of the town crier, the pending punishment of the Scold's bridle. Yet even here, their voices carry a gentleness born of shared devotion, soaked in empathy for the souls ensnared by idle tongues. From the refectory beyond the sculpted gate, the faint clatter of wooden spoons and hushed laughter offers a reminder that sisterhood, though bound by vows, thrives on compassion and understanding. As the sun dips toward its arc, the midday hush lingers like a folded prayer between stone walls. In Norwich's cloisters, words are measured with the utmost care, and every spoken syllable is a gift offered with intention. Whether lifted in chant or shared in companionable murmur, each word serves to heal rather than wound, to uplift rather than shame. And so, dear listener, let the cloister's gentle refrain guide you, that even in places of refuge, the softest whisper can carry weight, and it is with the gentlest of voices that we may best tend one another's hearts. Rest now, and let these murmured prayers cradle you into quiet dreams. The dawn light slips through tall mullioned windows of the Guildhall, watercolor blotting the polished oaken benches and casting a gentle glow across the polished stone floor. Here, Norwich's craftsmen and merchants gather to settle affairs of trade and town, yet before the clerk rises and the ledger is unfurled, there is another ritual at play, the soft exchange of tales behind bowed heads and between folded arms. In one dim corner, under the carved visage of a once glorious mayor, two coopers lean close over their stools. Their tools, smooth adzes and slender spokes, rest idle at their feet, forgotten as they trade details of Mistress Alden's elm-lit apology. One speaks so quietly that only the other can catch how her voice quivers with empathy. The other nods, lips pressed together, as though tasting every syllable for kindness. Across the hall, near the tall pillars draped in tapestry, a smith's hammer cools upon its anvil. The smith himself, apron still dusted with iron filings, shares a crumb of rumor he gleaned from the town crier's lament. He whispers of the Scold's bridle's looming shadow, as though it were an unavoidable guest at every hearth. His companion, a humble potter, brushes a whisker of flour from his hands and expresses a wish that words might be shaped as gently as clay, pliant, forgiving, free of sharp edges. A gentle murmur swells beneath the vaulted ceiling as more guild members arrive, the weaver with her spindle, the baker with flour-smudged sleeves, the vintner whose satchel rattles with coin. Each greets the nearest neighbor with a nod and a clipped phrase, Have you heard? It's softened, so they say. Words, once loose, don't return. Yet even as gossip ripples through the hall, it unfolds like a well-practiced dance, each participant mindful of step and pace, mindful that a misstep might spin rumor into a weapon. In the clerk's outer office, parchments await signatures, but few hands reach for quills before the latest murmurs settle into every ear. The murmured talk is so gentle that it might pass for shared counsel. Perhaps next time we pause before speaking. May mercy guide our tongues. Better a silent kindness than a careless whisper. And though the subject is scandal, the tone remains tempered with goodwill, as though the hall itself were a crucible for compassion rather than condemnation. At the center of it all stands the Guildhall's great table, its surface worn smooth by decades of deliberation. Here, the guildmasters convene beneath the fading banners of Norwich's crest. They listen first to business, barley shipments, apprentice dues, market tolls, and then they give voice to their hearts. One master clears his throat and speaks of the young tinker's daughter, urging that the town extend her gentle pardon. Another offers to craft a simple medal of goodwill for Mistress Alden, a token of the community's care. Their measured words drift back through the hall, touching each ear with a note of unity. Even the quietest listener feels invited to soften her judgment, to remember that within every story there dwells a tender human shape. And as the meeting adjourns, the coopers retrieve their adzes, the smith reignites the forge, and the potter lifts his clay once more, each returning to craft their trade with hands steadied by empathy. When the great doors swing closed behind the last guildmaster, the echoes of gentle counsel linger among the pillars. In Norwich's Guildhall, gossip becomes more than idle chit-chat. It transforms into an opportunity for hearts to meet, for forgiveness to bloom, and for words to be shaped as kindly as any crafted good. Rest now, dear listener, and let the hall's soft wisdom accompany you into peaceful reverie, that even the humblest whisper, when offered with care, can forge bonds stronger than iron. As twilight's lavender veil drapes over Market Hill, a hush settles upon the gathered crowd. The scaffolding's carved beams, lit by flickering lanterns, stand solemn against the deepening sky. Here, in the heart of Norwich, a single wooden block bears witness to a drama older than any dynasty, the public shaming of a scold compelled to don the scold's bridle before all. Atop the platform, dressed in her finest gown of faded sapphire wool, stands Isabel Caro, the merchant's only daughter. Her skirts, usually brushed by coins and silk from distant ports, now tremble in the evening breeze. The lanterns catch the tear-streaked sheen upon her cheeks, as pale and fragile as moonlight on water. Around her, the townsfolk, bread sellers, weavers, tanners, cluster in muted anticipation, their faces aglow with quiet regret rather than gleeful spectacle. Only days before, Isabel had awaited her father's return from London, her eyes bright with hope for news of new trade routes and fine velvets. Yet a careless jest slipped from her lips in the bakehouse lane, a rumor that the mayor's wife, famed for her gentle piety, had been seen in illicit laughter with a soldier of low birth. At the time, the speculation seemed harmless, a flicker of intrigue to pass the hours. But words, once freed, travel faster than any merchant's ship, and by midday they had reached the mayor's own ear. Now, with an iron cage pressed gently but inexorably around her head, Isabel feels the weight of every whispered syllable. The bridle's plate rests against her tongue, a cold reminder that speech, once surrendered to rumor, may cost more dearly than coin or cloth. She stands with shoulders straight, though her breath comes in soft, hesitant sighs. Beneath the iron's shadow, her voice is stilled. Only her eyes, wide with mingled sorrow and resolve, speak her lament. The bailiff steps forward, his ledger clasped to his chest like a shield against compassion. He recounts the offense in measured tones. How Isabel, in her playful confidence, set gossip ablaze and wounded the honor of one whose virtue was as renowned as Norwich's spired skyline. Each word lands upon the still air, heavy as stone, reminding both offender and onlooker of the fragile boundary between jest and injury. Around the scaffold's base, faces soften. A fishmonger's wife presses a damp kerchief to her lips, stifling a sob for the girl in iron. A group of apprentices cross themselves, recalling the sharp sting of rumors in their own youthful days. Even the bailiff's stern gaze flickers with a tremor of sorrow, as though the ledger's black ink bruises his heart. Then, as though summoned by collective empathy. The mayor himself emerges from the shadows, his cloak trailing lantern light along the cobbles. He pauses before the scaffold, his lined face gentle in the lantern's glow. In his hand, he holds a small token, a silver medallion emblazoned with the town's crest, a promise of mercy rather than retribution. Stepping onto the platform, he kneels beside Isobel and, with a soft cloth, lifts the bridle straps from her brow. The iron cage clatters to the wooden planks with a muted ring, echoing like a released sigh. Isobel's first breath, unencumbered, is like spring rain upon parched earth. The mayor fastens the medallion at her throat, an emblem of forgiveness she need not earn, but simply accept. As he rises, his voice, though quiet, carries across the square. Let this night remind us that mercy is the truest measure of justice. May our tongues be guided by kindness, and may we bear one another's faults with gentle hearts. His words drift through the gathering, settling into each listener as a benediction. Isobel steps down from the scaffold, her skirts brushing the lantern-lit cobbles. Around her, the crowd parts with bowed heads, offering whispered apologies and gentle nods of solidarity. In her hand, she clasps the mayor's medallion, a cool reassurance against her trembling palm. And as the lantern's glow softens into embers of starlight, Market Hill returns to dusk's tranquil hush. In the quiet that follows, the tale of the merchant's daughter's shame becomes more than a warning. It becomes a testament to compassion's power to heal wounds wrought by careless words. Rest now, dear listener, and let this tender moment ease you towards sleep, that even the sternest act of justice may bloom into grace when mercy lights the way. As dusk deepens into gentle indigo, Norwich's narrow lanes glow with the warm lantern light of shuttered homes. Each window is a small hearth of gold, casting soft pools upon the cobbles where dusk's long shadows dream. The lantern-bearers tread lightly, setting alight iron sconces at doorframes, tiny beacons to guide late wanderers and lull the restless heart. Beneath one such lantern, a pair of neighbors pause upon a threshold. Mistress Brown leans close to her friend's ear, her voice a hushed melody. "Did you see how the mayor's daughter lingered by the fountain today?" The other, Mrs. Langley, touches her finger to her lips, where the stain of berry juice from afternoon tarts still lingers. "I did," she whispers, "and I heard mention of a secret, something about a lost locket beneath the Cocky Bridge." Their words drift through the lantern-lit alley like smoke, curling around corners and drifting toward open shutters. A window upstairs parts silently, revealing the soft face of a young apprentice polishing silver candlesticks. She presses her palm to the sill, eager to catch the next phrase. Below, a passerby halts beside a collapsed ox cart, feigning interest in its overturned wheel as he collects each syllable of the whispered tale. These moments of eavesdropping feel as natural as the hush that falls with nightfall, a gentle indulgence rather than transgression. For in Norwich, the evening's hush seems made to cradle secrets, to render each whispered thread more intimate. Lanterns glow like stars brought to earth, and beneath their light, every hushed exchange becomes a private covenant between teller and listener. Yet for all its tender allure, this ritual holds an undercurrent of consequence. A rumor, no matter how softly spoken, may settle into hidden ears and take root beneath polite smiles. The apprentice cradling a silver candlestick may carry the tale to the tavern at moonrise. The ox cart's driver, intrigued by the mention of a locket, might repeat the story at Market Hill come morning. Words, once shared, take flight beyond the warm hug of evening's hush. Further along the lane, an old lamplighter pauses to refill his lantern's oil. His gnarled hands move with practiced care, yet his every breath seems attuned to the hum of voices around him. He straightens and listens to a distant snippet, a letter bound in crimson ribbon. His lined face softens in the lamplight, and he tucks the thought away as one stores a treasured memory. Above him, laundry, cambric shifts and coarse shirts dangles like pale ghosts in the lantern's glow. Between each swaying fold, pairs of curious eyes glimpse into neighboring windows. A scholar leafing through a vellum tome, a mother soothing her child with a lullaby, a merchant counting coins by lantern light. All are present and yet apart, each enveloped in the quiet intimacy of their own world, while echoes of gossip thread between them. Before the night fully settles, the town crier's bell sounds a single chime, a gentle reminder that midnight draws near. Lanterns flicker one last time as if stirred by the call. The neighbors at the threshold exchange one final glance and a soft nod, their craving for the half-heard tale sated for the night. The apprentice closes the window, and the ox cart driver resumes his walk, leaving the moonlit lane to its tranquil vigil. And so, dear listener, let the hush of evening lanterns and the dance of soft whispers guide you into dreaming, that in the gentle folds of night, every shared secret becomes a lullaby carried on cobblestones, and every hushed word drifts toward peace. Rest now, and let these lantern-lit paths lead you into tranquil slumber. In the heart of the Guildhall, where sunlight filters through high windows into motes of dust, the bailiff's chamber lies hushed and solemn. A sturdy oaken desk, scarred by decades of charcoal and ink, stands beneath a carved stone lintel. Atop its surface rests a leather-bound ledger, whose pages bear the gentle weight of Norwich's whispered betrayals. As you enter, the scent of aged parchment and beeswax lingers, a warm invitation to tread lightly. The bailiff himself sits before the ledger, his fingers tracing the gilt edges with care. His quill, feathered and poised, awaits the next entry, its nib sharpened to record both the tender and the unkind. In this quiet sanctuary of record-keeping, rumour leaves its raw form and finds shape in careful script. Today's entry begins with a soft sigh. Mistress Alden, Elm Hill. Beneath, each accusation unfurls like a delicate vine, curling through the margin in ink as dark as elderberries. Every whispered slander, each fragment of overheard jest or half-formed suspicion, takes root here, immortalized in tidy columns of date and name. To read the ledger is to leaf through the town's hidden heart, where every soft-spoken secret is preserved in gentle strokes of the pen. Outside the chamber door, distant footsteps echo like hesitant confessions. Apprentices and artisans pause their work at the echo of the ledger's turning page, mindful of the weight carried between these covers. For the ledger is more than a mere journal. It is the town's tacit covenant, a record of speech's soft power and its unintended harm. On the desk's corner stands a small brass lamp, its wick dipped in olive oil, casting a golden pool across the ledger's open page. The bailiff dips his quill into ink, and the next accusation flows forth: a merchant's daughter, a conjurer of jest that turned to sorrow, a tinker's son caught in a web of half-heard tales. Each line is crafted with measured compassion, the bailiff's own hand softening the harshness of what was spoken. As he writes, he murmurs blessings over each entry, that those recorded may find gentle justice, and that the ledger's witness may guide the town toward kindness. His voice is barely more than a lullaby, comforting as the rustle of willow branches in a summer breeze. When the final flourish is complete, he closes the ledger with a soft thump that seems to echo into every corner of the Guildhall. He brushes his palm over the cover, offering a silent benediction before replacing it on its shelf of worn tomes. And in that hush, a lesson lingers, that our quietest words, inscribed or untold, shape the contours of our shared life. The bailiff's secret ledger reminds us that speech bears a gentle weight, and that to give voice is also to bear responsibility for the stories we weave. Rest now, dear listener, and let this chamber's stillness guide you into repose, where even the softest entry blooms into understanding, and every whispered thought drifts into the gentle embrace of night. The tavern's low beams glow amber through curling wisps of hearth smoke, casting the long, soft shadows of oak tables and benches. A gentle murmur rises as the evening ale pours into pewter mugs, its froth catching the lantern light like a breath of foam. Here, in the snug warmth of the King's Head alehouse, townsfolk gather to set down the day's burdens and share the comfort of a well-tended hearth. At the far corner table, two travelers, boots caked with highway dust, lean close beneath a drift of ivy hanging from the rafters. They speak in hushed tones, one finger tracing the mug's rim, the other tapping the tabletop in a quiet rhythm. "Have you heard?" The first begins, voice low as the wind through willows. "They say Mistress Alden herself offered her apology at dawn, a brave gesture, but not enough to still the tongues already sharpened." The second traveler nods, lips barely moving. His gray cloak slips from one shoulder, revealing the edge of a leather ledger tied at his belt. The merchant's own scribe, perhaps, who knows both coin and clandestine counsel. "Whispers go farther here than on any open road," he replies, glancing up to catch the barkeep's soft gaze before turning back to his companion. I heard the tinker's daughter has found refuge with the old apothecary, gathering herbs to soothe her worries. Nearby, a group of apprentices clusters around a long table, their tankards huddled like small sentinels. Between hearty swallows of spiced ale, they exchange fragments of gossip. The glow of lantern-lit courtrooms, the Scold's bridles, locked jaws, and rumors of a midnight vigil at the priory. Each snippet drifts across the room like sparks from the hearth, alighting on eager ears and kindling new curiosities. Behind the bar, Mistress Haggart polishes an empty mug with a threadbare cloth, her eyes bright with gentle amusement. She hears every muted jest and shaded question, yet she offers only a knowing smile in return, her silence a soothing balm against the ache of rumor. When the man in the corner rises to refill his tankard, she inclines her head and pours with a soft clink, letting her quiet hospitality speak in place of words. A minstrel by the fireplace tunes his lute, preparing a lullaby of wandering rivers and distant hills. His song, when it begins, is a soothing refrain that drifts through the clamor, settling like a silken shawl over all who listen. Even the travelers pause, leaning their mugs closer to the song's warm current, as though hoping its melody might carry away the sharp edges of half-spoken tales. From a narrow doorway, a young mother slips in, her child cradled against her shoulder. She seats herself at a small bench and murmurs to the barkeep, "A whisper of kindness, please." And with it, she receives a small loaf of bread and a cup of sweetened ale, offered without charge. The barkeep's simple mercy, given in hushed generosity, becomes its own form of gratitude, quieting the restless buzz of rumor with an act of care. As the night deepens, the alehouse's gentle warmth extends beyond its walls. Each whispered tale, though born of idle curiosity, is tempered by compassionate glances and soft acts of service. For in Norwich, even the alehouse, where words flow as freely as the ale, becomes a canvas for kindness, a place where a single whisper may heal as well as harm, depending on the spirit in which it is offered. When the last note of the minstrel's lullaby fades and the embers in the hearth settle to glowing coals, the barkeep dims the lanterns to a final, soft glow. The travelers rise and tip their cloaks, the apprentices gather their mugs, and the young mother curls her child to sleep in a gentle hush. No loud farewells are called. Instead, each patron slips into the night with a soft farewell, an unspoken promise to carry forward both caution and compassion. Rest now, dear listener, and let the alehouse's warmth lull you into peaceful dreams, that in the gentle exchange of whispered tales, we may learn the art of kindness as well as the caution of our own words. Before the first stir of market bells, Norwich lies wrapped in a breathless stillness. Pale fingers of dawn creep along the rooftops, painting the timbered gables in tender hues of rose and gray. The river, once rippled by lantern-lit skiffs, now mirrors the soft sky with glassy calm, as if holding its own breath in reverence for the hour. On Market Hill, empty stalls stand like silent sentinels. Barrels of apples and bolts of cloth await return in the falling dusk, yet in this quiet reprieve they seem forgotten, mere props in a tableau of hush. The scaffold's timbers have been struck at last. Only its shadow lingers on the cobblestones, softened by dew, a ghostly reminder of voices stilled by mercy's grace. A lone sparrow flutters down to the riverbank, cocking its head as though curious to witness this rare silence. Its gentle chirp drifts across the water, where the faintest shimmer of a Scold's bridle lies half buried in reeds, no longer an instrument of shame, but a relic reclaimed by nature's slow kindness. In its quiet reflection, the bridle seems small and distant, its edges softened by the lull of grass and mist. Further along, the old lamplighter makes his morning rounds, lantern in hand, though no flame stirs within. He lifts the glass pane to peer inside, then closes it with a gentle click, as though honoring the dawn's hush. Each doorstep he passes bears the residue of the night's murmurs, footprints in dew, a stray ribbon caught on a latch. Yet the stories they carry have settled into gentle memory, leaving only a fragile peace in their wake. At St Peter Mancroft's gates, the sexton pauses to unlock the heavy oak doors. He pushes them open with a soft groan that blends seamlessly into the dawn chorus of church bells, tolling but once to mark the hour. Within, the nave is hushed except for the tremor of incense smoke curling toward the vaulted ceiling. The sexton kneels before the pulpit and offers his first prayer, a whispered hope that Norwich may carry this silence in its heart, that mercy sown in whispered apology might blossom into lasting kindness. In the tiny bakery on Elm Hill, ovens glow with newly kindled coals. The baker kneads dough in gentle rhythm, each movement a quiet blessing on the town's renewed calm. As he shapes loaves for the coming day, he hums a lullaby, a melody learned from his mother's lips, meant to soothe both child and weary heart. The yeasty warmth wafts into the street, and a few early risers pause at their thresholds to inhale the promise of fresh bread and a fresh start. By the river's bend, the mayor's daughter stands alone, eyes tracing the path of dawn's light across water. She clasps the silver medallion near her heart, the emblem of mercy that set her free, and breathes a prayer of gratitude. In her reflection, she sees not the weight of scorn, but the soft glow of forgiveness, and she allows herself a gentle smile. And as Norwich awakens, each heart beats to the rhythm of dawn's echoing silence, a silence born of unspoken compassion, of mercy granted more swiftly than rumor's reach. Here, in the quiet pause between night and day, the town breathes in unity, carrying forward the tender lesson that even the gentlest word can leave its mark, for better or for worse. Rest now, dear listener, and let this dawn's calm settle around you like dew upon petals. May your dreams be as peaceful as Norwich's morning hush, and may your waking hours carry the grace of whispered mercy. As midnight's hush deepens, Norwich's lanterns dim one by one, their golden halos drifting into shadow like wayward fireflies. Along the narrow lanes, a final breeze stirs the embers in iron sconces, coaxing them to flicker before surrendering to the night's velvet cloak. In this gentle twilight, the town exhales a collective sigh, an unspoken benediction after a day woven with whispered truths and softened judgments. On Elm Hill, where merchants once bartered rumors beneath a sky of star-scattered ink, the last lantern lingers at a shuttered window. Its light pools upon the sill, illuminating a garland of dried rosemary, an emblem of remembrance and protection. There, a solitary figure pauses. Mistress Alden, her heart still fluttering from the weight of her fateful whisper. She lifts a hand to the garland, brushing thyme and lavender with reverent care, as though seeking pardon from the fragrant sprigs. The lantern's dwindling glow reveals her gentle resolve to guard her words as tender treasures and to let silence fall where speech might wound. Further along the cobbles, the town crier makes his final round, his bell now stilled against his hip. He pauses beneath the timbered eaves of the King's Head, where the barkeep extinguishes the hearth fire with a quiet snuff. The crier leans forward, whispering a soft thanks for the ale shared earlier, a small kindness offered in the warmth of humility. Then, with lantern lowered, he steps into the gloom, his form melting into the alley's soft penumbra. Beneath the arched entrance of St Peter Mancroft, a lone pilgrim kneels to offer the night's last prayer. Her whispered words trace invisible patterns in the air, each syllable a lilt of gratitude and hope. In the cavern of stone, the prayer drifts upward, mingling with the chill breath of midnight. Hollow pillars catch its echo, transforming it into a lullaby that drifts back into the lanes, settling like dew upon the rooftops. At the river's bend, the mayor's daughter stands once more by the water's edge, clutching the silver medallion that now gleams softly against her breast. The medallion's image, a pair of clasped hands, seems to glow with its own quiet light. She dips her reflection in the water, watching the ripples carry her forgiving smile across the glassy surface. As the lanterns along the quay dim to their last flicker, she tucks the medallion beneath her cloak, a talisman of mercy she will carry into every dawn henceforth. In the guildhall's secret chamber, the bailiff closes the leather-bound ledger. Its cover bears the impressions of countless judgments, each entry a testament to words held accountable. He places the book upon its shelf and offers a silent vow that he will continue to record not only the rumors that wound, but also the acts of kindness that mend. His quill rests beside a scrap of parchment inscribed with a simple phrase, "Let mercy guide the pen." He extinguishes his lamp, and the chamber dissolves into stillness. Along the cloistered walk of the priory, Sister Beatrice lights one final candle before retiring for the night. Its flame dances across carved stone angels, their wings frozen in eternal repose. She offers a soft prayer for all who stumbled into gossip's web, and for all who found solace in a gentle word. As the candle surrenders its flame to darkness, her prayer lingers, a fragrant echo of lavender and incense woven into the night air. At the doorstep of the alehouse, Mistress Heggert locks the heavy oak door and pauses in the threshold. She runs a palm across the worn beam, feeling the warmth left by the hands of those who sought her quiet counsel. With a soft smile, she tucks the key into her pocket and turns away, the alehouse's final glow fading behind her like a heartbeat slowed by peace. And so, dear listener, as Norwich's lanterns yield to night's embrace, our tale comes full circle. Words once loose have found gentle guidance. Whispers born of curiosity have been tempered by mercy. In the hush that fills these lanes, let your own heart rest, knowing that even the softest voice can leave a mark, and that every kind gesture shines brighter than any lantern's glow. Rest now. Let history's hush carry you to sleep.